Well, it's time now for our Sunday specials. A new report by the Institute of Development Studies, a UK-based think tank, has placed Nigeria as second poorest country in the world in terms of food affordability. Well, there are also indications that many Nigerians could suffer a lack of key nutrients from protein-rich foods due to an increase in prices of these basic food commodities. Kemi Balogun reports.
Adama is making a meal for her husband and children. Her family live in one of the slums inside the highbrow Asokoro area in Abuja. Lately, her meals are not as rich as they used to be, but it is the best her family can afford. Her children play with others, patiently waiting for when food will be served. They remain oblivious of the current economic realities that deprive them of a healthy portion of protein in their meals. Market forces have pushed up prices of food commodities, especially protein-rich food, making it increasingly difficult for Adama's children and other children from poor families to get a healthy, balanced diet.
There was a time when my children eat eggs, but now we cannot afford it. It is no longer in their meals. Things have really changed. Beef is expensive. Rice is no longer cheap. We spend more to buy little food.
Her husband Mustafa has a small makeshift store where he sells provisions and earns very little to make ends meet. He says fending for his family has been tough as his profit continues to shrink.
I also had to reduce the money I spend on food. These days we cook just once in a day. Sometimes we manage to eat twice in a day. There is nothing we can do about it.
Mustafa has had to reduce the amount spent on food alone to allow him meet other basic needs.
Well, I have to pay school fees for the children. It now seems as if education is a luxury. Almost all food items are now expensive, yet our income did not increase. Life is tough for the poor.
A recent survey carried out by Premium Times, a prominent online newspaper in Nigeria, showed that the price of all food items have dramatically skyrocketed, and the cost of protein-rich foods rose by an average of 60.5%, while carbohydrates rose by 59%. Emmanuel Buga says weak government policies and over-reliance on food imports has further weakened the economy and critically impacted food prices.
Food prices ordinarily will affect virtually every other thing because among the needs that are required in an household, food comes first. So if it is high, people will have less to spend on clothing, to spend on education, etc., etc. The reason is because we just have to eat. The government must therefore know that everything that will make food prices to come at a controlled level that will make food prices to be affordable for not just 42% of Nigerians that IMF and World Bank says they are poor, but more importantly to over 89 million Nigerians that UNDP says they are living under multidimensional poverty. When food prices are high, labor will find it unreachable to purchase. Also know that they have to spend on transport to get to places of work. So the importance of food prices, manageable food prices cannot be overemphasized.
Another report by Doctors Without Borders, published in June this year, shows that there is an alarming rise in preventable illnesses associated with a lack of food. The data shows that in the first 4 months of 2021, there were more than 10,000 children in Anka, Zurmi, and Shinkafi IDP camps in Zamfara treated for severe acute malnutrition and other preventable diseases. The International Medical Association warns that rising violence in northwest Nigeria is also causing a humanitarian crisis. UNICEF says an estimated 2 million children in Nigeria suffer from severe acute malnutrition. Now, this is a direct or underlying cause of 45% of all deaths of children under the age of 5. Nigeria also accounts for the second highest burden of stunted children in the entire world. Now, growing children like Adam's children need high levels of protein because without it, it impedes on their effective growth and development. Most malnourished children lose out on basic components that provide the necessary minerals and vitamins to help them develop effectively. Protein is a major component of the skin, muscle, bone, organs, hair, and nails. It is an important part of any diet. It makes up the part of every cell in the body because it helps the body to build and repair cells and tissues.
It is very crucial and it's very important that every functioning human being consumes proteins. You can find proteins in eggs, some nuts like peanut butter. You can find them in yogurt. You can find them in every cell of your body. So protein in essence is extremely important.
This bustling community market in Pape, a suburb in the nation's capital, is where many low and middle income earners come to buy food commodities. This butcher explains why meat prices have increased right from the abattoirs where they are slaughtered before it gets to his slab where he shreds into smaller pieces and then he sells to his customers.
We used to buy one goat for 5,000 naira. Now it costs about 15,000 naira. We no longer sell cheap meat because we also incur losses.
For traders and customers here, their purchasing power has weakened as the naira notes can no longer put food on the table. Larry and many other low-income earners have also reduced the quantity of beef and other proteins they buy from butchers in the market.
Formerly, I buy meat 50 naira, but now the cotton is 100. Before, I used to buy kilo meat 1,000 naira, but now it's 2,000.
Before, if I come and buy meat of 2,000 or 3,000, they will use the white yellow leather to put it for me. But now you can see they are putting it on this small leather. It's 3,000 naira meat. So everything is cost now. Even beans, we cannot buy beans now. One mudu is 800 naira. Talk less of meat.
Poultry is another significant source of protein, but the high cost of feeds and transportation has greatly affected sales. The price of one egg has increased by more than 40%, and one crate of egg that sold for 900 naira is now sold for 1,700 naira in the open market. One chicken used to be 1,500 naira, but it now costs more than 3,000 naira, and that is 100% hike. Sarah Abraham lives on the proceeds of this poultry. She gives reasons for the rising cost price, but believes that Nigerians will always adapt to difficult situations.
The cost of chicken going eggs going high is not because of the production rate of the birds. It's actually because of the cost of maize. Because maize contributed or contributes to almost 50 to 60% of the feeds, the entire feed itself. So because of the importation rate we have now in the country now is very low, we are no longer importing maize, and even the ones we are producing now in Nigeria is not even enough to go around. So even that one to still export it. So we here is not even enough for us as farmers, because still that maize we do pap, still that maize we still have concentrate, still that maize we still produce feeds too, still that maize we still roast it. So it's not even enough for us here to eat. So that's why the demand is high, but the supply is low. So that's why it's expensive, because it contributes to 60 to 70% of the production of feed.
Meat makes up a significant part of daily meals. It is like the icing on the cake when the food is served on the table. Protein deficiency has severe health implications, with kwashiorkor being its most severe form and is most commonly seen in children from developing countries. Other diseases caused by protein deficiency includes edema, fatty liver, skin, hair and nail problems, loss of muscle mass, greater risk of bone fractures, stunted growth in children, increased severity of infections, greater appetite, and calorie intake. But there are cheaper alternatives that will still give the amount of protein needed by the body, especially for children.
So if you can't afford to buy, meat or what have you, you can take things like yogurt, milk. All protein is also present in these food types. You could also take peanut butter. You can also find protein in sesame seeds. So there's so many alternatives that one can still, introduce protein into your diet. The meat bones they sell at the market or your local butcher, keeps aside. Some of these bones have meat pieces or meat cutlets on them, or strips of meat on it or fat. These can somehow substitute for meat on the plate. So it gives the meat flavor. It still gives every single thing that the meat would give.
Nigeria continues to rely heavily on imports for almost all food types, and this continues to threaten its target for food sufficiency. Government's efforts to lift more people out of poverty may not have yielded much. It also seems achieving Goal 3 of the Sustainable Development Goals, that centers on good health and well-being, may still be an impossible task. Kemi Balogun, TVC News, Abuja.